Something has shifted. You may not have heard the words yet. You may not have seen the message. But you can feel it. There is a different energy around him now. Not chaotic. Not avoidant. Not distant in the same way. It's heavier. Focused. Intentional. Almost urgent. The masculine is done waiting. For months, maybe years, he convinced himself that time was on his side. That silence was safe. That distance would protect him. That later was a strategy. But something inside him has cracked. And now he needs union, not someday. Not eventually. Not when everything feels perfect. Now, what happens when the divine masculine stops running and starts choosing? What happens when the man who once hesitated suddenly feels the clock ticking in his chest? This is the moment we're entering. For a long time, waiting felt logical to him. He told himself, I need more stability first. I need to fix my finances. I need to get my emotions under control. She'll understand. If it's meant to be, it will happen. Waiting felt mature, responsible, strategic. But what he didn't realize is that waiting slowly turned into hiding. And hiding slowly turned into losing. There's a difference between divine timing and procrastinating your destiny. At first, he truly believed space would bring clarity. And it did, but not in the way he expected. Instead of fading, the connection intensified. Instead of becoming easier, the silence became louder. Instead of forgetting her, he started feeling her everywhere. Why? Because when a connection is so deep, distance doesn't dilute it, distills it. It removes distractions. It removes fantasy. It leaves only truth. And the truth is this. He doesn't want another cycle. He doesn't want another almost. He doesn't want another maybe one day. He wants union. Now, you see, something powerful happens when a masculine energy realizes he can actually lose her. Not energetically, not spiritually, but physically. He begins to understand that she is no longer waiting in the same way. Her energy shifted first. She stopped chasing. She stopped over-explaining. She stopped trying to convince him. She pulled back into herself. And for the first time he felt it. Have you ever noticed how silence from a detached person feels normal? But silence from someone who used to care feels terrifying? That's where he is. He can sense that her love is no longer pleading. It's poised. No longer anxious. It's anchored. No longer reaching. It's radiant on its own. And suddenly waiting doesn't feel safe anymore. Feels dangerous. There's a moment, and many masculines reach it quietly, where pride stops being worth it, where control feels exhausting, where ego feels hollow. He may not admit this out loud, but internally, he's tired of pretending he doesn't care, tired of acting unaffected, tired of replaying memories at 2 a.m., tired of comparing every new connection to the one he never resolved. Because here's the truth. You can distract yourself from love. You can numb yourself from longing. You can bury yourself in work, friends, validation. But you cannot outrun recognition. And he recognizes her. Not as a fantasy. Not as an option. Not as an ego boost. But as home. That realization is destabilizing. Because once you know where home is, every other place feels temporary. Let's ask a real question. What is more painful, risking rejection or living with regret? For a long time he chose avoidance. Avoid rejection. Avoid vulnerability. Avoid confrontation. Avoid intensity. But avoidance has a hidden cost. Regret. And regret grows louder with time. He begins replaying the moments he didn't speak. The times he pulled away. The conversations he cut short. The vulnerability he swallowed. He starts asking himself, what if she was waiting for me to step up? What if I misread her strength as indifference? What if she gave up because I never chose her clearly? That's when urgency is born. Not from obsession, but from clarity. There's also something else happening beneath the surface. The masculine energy matures in cycles. At first, the connection feels overwhelming, almost threatening to his independence. So he resists. Then it feels emotional, and he doesn't have the tools to process it. So he withdraws. Then it feels intense, and he confuses intensity with instability. So he distances. But eventually, it feels undeniable. And when something is undeniable, you have two choices: step toward it, or live in denial. Denial requires constant effort. Stepping forward requires courage. He's realizing that courage is actually less exhausting. You might wonder, why now? Why not 6 months ago? Why not last year? Because growth is invisible until it isn't. He had to lose access to her energy. He had to experience the emptiness. He had to try filling the void with other things and realize none of it compares. Sometimes a masculine doesn't awaken because of love. He awakens because of absence. Absence clarifies value. And he feels her absence like a missing frequency in his life. Something is off. Achievements feel muted. Conversations feel surface level. Success feels strangely hollow. Not because his life is bad, but because the one person who mirrors his soul isn't there. That's when the realization hits. Waiting isn't strength anymore. It's fear disguised as patience. Now there is a pressure building inside him. Not toxic pressure. Not chaotic pressure. Focused pressure. Like a decision that refuses to be postponed. He may feel restless. He may feel impulsive. He may suddenly want to reach out without overthinking it. Because overthinking is what created the separation in the first place. He overanalyzed feelings. Overanalyzed timing. Overanalyzed her reactions. Overanalyzed his own worthiness. An analysis created paralysis. But clarity creates movement. And he is moving. Here's something most people don't talk about. Masculine energy hates unfinished business. It can tolerate distance. It can tolerate pride. It can tolerate conflict. But it cannot tolerate unresolved destiny. When he knows deep down that this connection is unfinished, it eats at him. He begins imagining what union would actually look like. Not fantasy. Not just passion. But partnership. Shared growth. Shared vision. Shared stability. And suddenly, the fear of vulnerability becomes smaller than the fear of missing out on something sacred. He is done waiting because waiting no longer protects him. It isolates him. He is done pretending because pretending no longer preserves dignity. It creates distance. He is done running because running no longer gives freedom. It creates emptiness. So now the question becomes, will he act? Because awareness is the first shift. But action is the real transformation. And in this chapter, this moment, we are witnessing the awareness phase explode into urgency. The masculine is no longer confused. He is confronted. Confronted with truth. Confronted with longing. Confronted with the possibility that love requires risk. And for the first time, risk feels worth it. If you are watching this and you feel that energetic shift, if you sense that something in him has changed, trust that. When the masculine reaches this stage, it is not subtle internally. It is intense. He may not show all of it externally yet. But internally, he knows. He knows waiting has expired. He knows silence has consequences. He knows destiny doesn't wait forever. And most importantly, he knows he needs union now. Not because he is desperate, but because he is finally ready to choose. In the next chapter, we'll explore what triggered this awakening, and why the collapse of illusion is often the beginning of real love. There was a time when waiting felt wise. He told himself it was maturity. He told himself it was strength. He told himself it was respect for divine timing. But if he's honest now, it was fear wearing a spiritual mask. For months, maybe years, he existed in a suspended state. Not fully gone. Not fully present. Hovering in between action and avoidance. In between longing and silence. In between I want this and I'm not ready. Waiting became his comfort zone. Because waiting requires nothing. No vulnerability. No rejection. No accountability. No emotional exposure. Just time. And time feels safe until it doesn't. At first, the separation felt manageable. He distracted himself with work. With goals. With routines. With other connections that looked good on the surface but never reached his depth. He convinced himself that space was productive. She needs time. I need to focus. If it's real, it won't disappear. But something subtle began happening beneath his logic. The silence didn't bring relief. It brought awareness. He started noticing that every achievement felt slightly muted. that conversations with others lacked resonance, that even moments of happiness had an unspoken absence in them. It was as if something essential was missing from the room, even when the room was full. Have you ever tried to convince yourself you're over someone, only to realize you're simply distracting yourself from feeling them? That's where he was. Waiting stopped feeling empowering. It started feeling like slow loss. There's a psychological shift that happens when delay turns into detachment. At first, he believed she would always be there energetically. Even if she wasn't physically reaching out, he assumed her heart was still open in the same way. But then her energy changed. She stopped pushing, stopped explaining, stopped reacting. Her silence felt different. Not wounded but grounded. And that's when his nervous system noticed. Because masculine energy often responds when something becomes unavailable. Not out of ego, but out of recognition. He felt her pull back not as rejection but as independence. And independence triggered something primal inside him. What if she doesn't wait forever? What if her stillness means she's choosing herself? What if the connection he assumed was secure is no longer accessible in the same way? That's when waiting becomes dangerous. Waiting once felt like control. Now it feels like risk. He begins to see the pattern. Every time things got close, he delayed. Every time emotions intensified, he retreated. Every time she needed clarity, he offered ambiguity. Not because he didn't care, but because caring that deeply felt destabilizing. The connection wasn't casual. It wasn't light. It wasn't replaceable. And that level of significance scared him. So he waited, hoping the intensity would fade, hoping time would neutralize the bond, hoping the urgency would dissolve on its own. But instead, time refined it. There is a moment, and this moment is quiet but powerful, when a man realizes that waiting is no longer neutral. It is actively creating distance. He begins replaying the timeline. All the later conversations. All the almost meetings. All the times he thought, I'll reach out tomorrow. Tomorrow became weeks. Weeks became months. Months became an entirely new dynamic. And suddenly he's not waiting anymore. He's behind. There's a difference between choosing space and losing momentum. And he can feel that momentum slipping. The end of the waiting phase doesn't begin with action. It begins with discomfort. A restlessness he can't shake. A heaviness in his chest. A sense that something is unfinished and refusing to fade. He may try to ignore it at first. He may tell himself it's just nostalgia. But nostalgia doesn't feel this urgent. This feels like destiny knocking. And destiny does not knock gently forever. It knocks louder when ignored. Have you ever noticed how the longer you avoid a necessary conversation, the heavier it feels? That's what's happening internally. The weight of unspoken truth is building. Another layer of this shift is pride. Waiting allowed him to preserve pride. If he never reached out, he could never be rejected. If he never clarified his feelings, he could never be vulnerable. If he never made a move, he could never be told no. But pride has a ceiling. And when the connection is deep enough, pride becomes too expensive. He starts asking himself, what am I protecting, really? Is my ego worth losing her? Is silence strength or is it cowardice? Is waiting wisdom or avoidance? These are not easy questions, but they are transformative ones. Because once he sees the pattern clearly, he cannot unsee it. There's also the spiritual dimension. When a connection is divinely orchestrated, or at least deeply karmic, delay doesn't dissolve it. It intensifies the lessons. He starts noticing synchronicities. Her name appearing unexpectedly. Songs that remind him of specific moments. Dreams that feel too vivid to dismiss. Memories resurfacing at random times. Feels almost intrusive. But it's not intrusion. It's integration. His subconscious is processing what his conscious mind avoided. And the more he tries to rationalize it away, the stronger it becomes. Because the soul does not operate on the ego's timeline. He may even attempt one last distraction cycle. A new connection. A new focus. A new goal. But it feels forced. Surface level. Incomplete. Because comparison is automatic now. And comparison is merciless. No one mirrors him the way she did. No one challenged him the same way. No one triggered both his fear and his growth simultaneously. That's when the truth settles in. Waiting didn't make him stronger. It made him lonelier. The end of the waiting phase is essentially the collapse of illusion. The illusion that he had unlimited time. The illusion that she would always be energetically available. The illusion that feelings fade when ignored. The illusion that silence equals safety. He begins to understand that growth is not passive. Union is not accidental. Love is not maintained through avoidance. It requires decision, and decision requires risk. Here's the deeper realization. Waiting allowed him to delay responsibility, because once he chooses, he must show up differently. He must communicate clearly. He must be emotionally available. He must confront his own inconsistencies. He must become the version of himself capable of sustaining union. That's intimidating. But something has shifted inside him. The fear of growth is now smaller than the fear of loss. And that's when a masculine truly awakens. Not when he feels romantic. Not when he feels nostalgic. But when he feels accountable. He starts imagining two futures. One where he continues waiting, and one where he steps forward. In the first future, life continues. He functions. He survives. He achieves. But something always feels slightly unresolved. In the second future, he risks vulnerability. He risks discomfort. He risks exposure. But he also risks fulfillment. Which future feels heavier? Which one feels alive? That internal comparison is the death of hesitation. The end of the waiting phase is not dramatic externally. There may not be an immediate message. There may not be a sudden confession. But internally the decision has shifted. He is no longer asking, "Should I?" He is asking, "How do I?" That difference changes everything. Because should is doubt. How is commitment? And commitment generates movement. If you are sensing this shift in your dynamic, if the energy feels different, charged, intentional, it's because internally he has crossed a threshold. He understands that waiting has expired. That the lesson of separation has run its course. That delay is no longer spiritual growth. It's stagnation. And stagnation feels unbearable when you've tasted a soul-level connection. So the waiting phase ends not with anger, not with desperation, but with clarity. A grounded, almost sobering realization. If I don't act, I will lose this. And this is not something I can replace. That clarity is powerful. Because once a masculine chooses clarity over comfort, union stops being a fantasy. It becomes a decision. And decisions change timelines. In the next chapter, we will explore what specifically triggered this awakening. The internal and external events that pushed him from hesitation into urgency. Awakenings rarely happen in comfort. They happen in collapse. They happen in contrast. They happen when the illusion you were living inside can no longer sustain itself. For a long time he was balancing two worlds. The world of what feels safe. And the world of what feels true. Safe looked logical, stable, predictable, manageable. True felt intense, emotional, exposing, transformational. And when faced with those two options, he chose safe. Until safe stopped working. There is always a trigger. Sometimes it's dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. But there is always a moment where the internal tension becomes louder than the external distractions. For him, it may have started subtly. A random memory hitting harder than usual. A song that once felt nostalgic suddenly feeling raw. A dream where she appeared. Not as fantasy but as presence. He woke up unsettled. Why now? Why is this connection resurfacing with more intensity instead of fading? Because suppression has an expiration date. And his expired. One of the strongest triggers for masculine awakening is energetic withdrawal. When she stopped chasing. When she stopped overgiving. When she stopped explaining herself repeatedly. When she stopped trying to fix what he avoided. Her stillness became the mirror. Before, he could rely on her emotional presence to keep the connection alive. Even in silence, he felt her leaning toward him. But now, he feels her centered in herself. Grounded. Whole. And not reaching. That shift is destabilizing. Because masculine energy often calibrates through pursuit dynamics. When pursuit disappears, clarity appears. And clarity forces accountability. He may have sensed it through small things. Her social media energy changed. Her tone shifted. Her responses became neutral, not reactive. Or perhaps she completely disconnected. No anger. No dramatic exit. Just peace. That kind of peace is louder than chaos, because it signals self-respect. And self-respect triggers reflection. He starts wondering, did she finally let go? Did she stop believing in this? Did my hesitation teach her not to trust me? Those questions burn. Another trigger could have been loss. Not necessarily losing her completely, but losing access. Maybe she set boundaries. Maybe she stopped being emotionally available. Maybe she moved forward in her life visibly. And suddenly what felt guaranteed no longer felt secure. Masculine energy often awakens when confronted with finality. When the door doesn't feel permanently open anymore. When he senses that if he doesn't move, someone else might. Not from jealousy, but from realization. She is valuable. And value attracts. That awareness sharpens urgency. There's also the collapse of distraction. For a while he could pour himself into work. Into achievements. Into goals. Into other people who required less emotional depth. But distractions eventually thin out. The novelty fades. The excitement dulls. And what remains? The unresolved. He might have achieved something significant recently. A promotion. A financial milestone. Recognition. And in the middle of celebration, he felt something strange. A quiet emptiness. Because success feels different when you don't share it with the person who truly sees you. He may have smiled outwardly, but internally asked, why does this feel incomplete? That question is an awakening trigger. Sometimes the trigger is pain. A breakup with someone else. A betrayal. A moment where he felt misunderstood or unseen. And suddenly he remembers the one person who understood him without effort. The one person who challenged him but didn't diminish him. The one person who saw his potential instead of just his performance. Contrast creates clarity, and clarity creates longing. But this longing feels different. It's not fantasy-driven. It's recognition-driven. There's also the internal maturation process. Growth doesn't announce itself loudly. It integrates quietly. He may have been working on himself without consciously connecting it to her. Therapy, self-reflection, spiritual exploration, life lessons. And slowly, the parts of him that once felt threatened by intimacy begin to stabilize. He becomes more emotionally literate, more self-aware, more accountable. And then he revisits the connection in his mind, but this time from a new perspective. He realizes, I wasn't as ready as I thought I was. I confused fear with logic. I mislabeled vulnerability as weakness. I blamed timing for what was actually avoidance. That realization stings. But it liberates. Because awareness dissolves denial. Another powerful trigger is seeing her thrive. Not perform. Not compete. Thrive. When he senses that she is no longer stuck in the cycle of waiting, something shifts in him. It's not ego-based competition. It's alignment recognition. He sees her stepping into her power. And instead of feeling intimidated, he feels inspired. Because deep down, masculine energy wants to rise to meet strength. Not rescue fragility. Not dominate insecurity. Rise to meet strength. And if she has risen, he must rise too. That internal challenge ignites momentum. There's also the karmic mirror effect. The very behaviors he once exhibited, detachment, inconsistency, hesitation, may now be reflected back to him by someone else. And it doesn't feel good. Being on the receiving end of emotional ambiguity creates empathy. He starts understanding what she felt. The confusion, the waiting, the questioning. That mirrored experience accelerates awakening. Because empathy closes the gap between ego and heart. Let's ask something deeper. What if the real trigger wasn't external at all? What if it was exhaustion? Emotional exhaustion from pretending not to care. From suppressing longing. From holding back messages. From rehearsing conversations in his head but never speaking them. Carrying unresolved love is heavy. And eventually the weight becomes undeniable. He reaches a point where the effort of holding back is greater than the effort of reaching out. That's when the shift becomes irreversible. There's also a spiritual timing component. Sometimes awakening happens when both energies are simultaneously ready. She may have completed her detachment phase. He may have completed his resistance phase. And energetically the field shifts. Synchronicities increase. Thoughts intensify. Memories surface at the same time. Feels almost orchestrated. Because at a certain level it is. When two souls evolve separately but remain connected energetically, there comes a convergence point. A moment when separation has taught what it needed to teach. And delay becomes unnecessary. He can feel that convergence building. The final trigger is realization of consequence. Not abstract consequence. Real consequence. If I don't act, I lose this. Not temporarily. Not symbolically. Actually, that awareness snaps him out of passive mode. Because masculine energy is action-oriented when clarity is achieved. Confusion creates stagnation. Clarity creates movement. And now clarity is loud. He sees the timeline clearly. He sees the missed opportunities. He sees the emotional cost of pride. He sees the strength she has developed in his absence. And he understands something profound. She will not beg. She will not chase. She will not wait indefinitely. If union happens, it will happen because he steps forward consciously. Not because circumstances force it. Awakening, then, is not romantic. It's sobering. It's humbling. It's confronting. He is confronting himself. His patterns. His fears. His ego. His avoidance. But he is also confronting truth. And truth is magnetic. Because once you see it, you cannot return to comfortable illusion. So what triggered this awakening? Absence. Contrast. Empathy. Maturation. Loss. Clarity. And the undeniable recognition that some connections are not meant to fade. They are meant to evolve. The waiting phase is over. The illusion has collapsed. And what remains is a simple but powerful realization. If I want union, I must choose it. In the next chapter, we will explore the internal battle that follows this awakening. The war between ego and soul, fear and courage, pride and love. Awakening is not peaceful. It is confrontational. The moment he realizes he wants union, now a war begins inside him. Not a loud war. Not something visible to the outside world. But a silent, relentless battle between two forces that have always lived within him. His ego. And his soul. The ego speaks first. It always does. Don't reach out first. What if she ignores you? What if she moved on? What if you look foolish? What if you were wrong about everything? The ego is strategic, protective, analytical. It measures risk. It calculates outcomes. It remembers past embarrassments. And it reminds him of every time vulnerability didn't go well. The ego's mission is survival. And survival does not prioritize love. Prioritizes control. But the soul is quieter. It doesn't shout. It doesn't argue. It doesn't panic. Simply knows. It knows what he felt was real. It knows the connection was rare. It knows the waiting phase has expired. It knows union requires action. The soul doesn't ask, will this hurt? It asks, is this true? And truth is uncomfortable when ego is attached to pride. This is where the conflict intensifies. Because reaching out means surrendering control. It means admitting he still cares. It means acknowledging he miscalculated. It means exposing emotion. And for a masculine who built his identity around composure and self-sufficiency, that exposure feels destabilizing. He wonders, if I show her my heart, do I lose power? If I admit I was wrong, do I lose authority? If I choose love openly, do I lose control? The ego equates vulnerability with weakness. But the soul equates vulnerability with alignment. And alignment feels magnetic. Let's pause and ask something deeper. Why is vulnerability so threatening to him? Because vulnerability removes the mask. The mask of indifference. The mask of I'm fine. The mask of I don't need anyone. For a long time, those masks protected him. They kept him from rejection. They kept him from dependency. They kept him from emotional exposure. But they also kept him from intimacy. And intimacy is what he now realizes he wants. Not surface-level conversation. Not casual connection. Intimacy. The kind that sees through performance. The kind that challenges and supports simultaneously. The kind that requires truth. And truth cannot coexist with ego armor.
The ego argues.
She should reach out first. She pulled away. She misunderstood you. You already tried enough. But the soul responds. You hesitated. You avoided clarity. You feared intensity. You left things unresolved. This internal dialogue loops in his mind. Sometimes it feels like justification. Sometimes it feels like confession. But beneath the noise, one thing becomes undeniable. He cannot move toward union without dismantling pride. There's also fear. Not fear of love, but fear of finality. If he reaches out and she rejects him, the illusion ends. The what-if dissolves. The possibility collapses into reality. And sometimes possibility feels safer than reality, because possibility doesn't demand accountability. Reality does. He has been living inside potential. Potential reunion. Potential conversation. Potential reconciliation. But potential has a shelf life. And he can feel it expiring. Another layer of the conflict is identity. He has always seen himself as strong, independent, grounded. But now he feels vulnerable, restless, emotional. And that contradiction unsettles him. He asks himself, why does this affect me so deeply? Why can't I just move on? Why does her silence feel louder than other people's presence? The ego tries to downplay it. It's just attachment. It's just ego bruising. It's just nostalgia. But the soul knows its alignment. And alignment cannot be replaced. There is also guilt woven into this conflict. He may replay moments where he withdrew. Moments where she needed reassurance and he offered distance. Moments where he chose comfort over courage. Guilt is uncomfortable. But guilt is also transformative. Because it signals awareness. He begins to understand that love requires participation. Not passive presence. Not emotional half measures. Active participation. And that realization forces him to confront himself honestly. The ego fears humiliation. The soul fears regret. Which fear is stronger? Humiliation is temporary. Regret lingers. He imagines a future where he never reaches out. Where he watches her build a life without him. Where he tells himself, it wasn't meant to be. But deep down knows he never truly tried. That imagined regret feels heavy. He can carry ego. But he cannot carry lifelong regret. And that's when the balance starts shifting. There's also the masculine instinct for action. Once clarity sets in, stagnation feels unnatural. He was designed to move, to build, to decide. And now he is stuck in internal analysis. That contradiction creates pressure. Pressure builds until something gives. Either he suppresses it again, or he acts. Suppression is exhausting. Action is scary. But action releases tension. And he craves release. The conflict also touches his sense of worthiness. Am I enough now? Have I grown enough? Can I offer her what she deserves? The ego whispers doubt. You're still flawed. You're still inconsistent. You might fail again. But growth does not require perfection. It requires intention. And he now feels intentional. He may not have every answer. But he has clarity. He may not have every solution. But he has courage building. There's a pivotal moment in this conflict. Quiet decision point. Where he realizes that protecting his ego is no longer aligned with protecting his happiness. He begins to see ego not as strength, but as limitation. Pride kept him silent, but silence cost him closeness. Control kept him safe, but safety cost him intimacy. Avoidance kept him composed, but composure cost him connection. And suddenly the math becomes obvious. What he gained from ego was temporary. What he lost from ego was meaningful. The soul's voice grows stronger. It reminds him of how he felt around her. Grounded yet challenged. Seen yet respected. Provoked yet understood. It reminds him of conversations that lasted hours. Of tension that felt electric but transformative. Of a depth that other connections never reached. Those memories are not fantasy. They are evidence. Evidence that something rare existed. and rare things require risk. So the battle reaches its peak. Ego says, wait longer. Protect yourself. Soul says, step forward. Choose love. Ego says, what if you're rejected? Soul says, what if you're accepted? Ego says, you might lose face. Soul says, you might gain union. Some point one voice wins. And the deciding factor is not logic. It's longing. Longing is honest. It cuts through pride. It exposes truth. And his longing has matured from emotional chaos into grounded clarity. He doesn't want drama. He doesn't want chase dynamics. He doesn't want confusion. He wants union. Real. Stable. Mutual. The inner conflict is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of transformation. Because the ego must be confronted before love can be chosen consciously. And he is in that confrontation now. Torn. Restless. Aware. But leaning. Leaning toward courage. Leaning toward vulnerability. Leaning toward action. Because deep down, he understands something powerful. Union will not happen through pride. It will happen through truth. And truth requires him to risk being seen fully. When a masculine shifts internally, the world around him begins to shift subtly too. Not always dramatically. Not always immediately. But unmistakably. You won't always hear a grand declaration. You won't always see a sudden romantic gesture. But you will feel the difference. Because when he is done waiting, his energy changes before his words do. And energy never lies. The first sign is clarity. Not emotional chaos. Not impulsive confusion. Clarity. He stops oscillating between hot and cold. Stops overanalyzing every detail. Stops pretending he's undecided. There's a grounded decisiveness that begins to form. He may not move instantly, but his mind has crossed the threshold. He is no longer debating whether he wants union. He is thinking about how to create it. That shift is powerful. Because indecision drains energy. Decision focuses it. And you can feel focused energy. The second sign is restlessness. A quiet agitation that wasn't there before. He may feel distracted at work. He may catch himself staring at his phone. He may open your chat window and close it repeatedly. He may type a message and delete it. Not because he doesn't want to reach out, but because the weight of what he feels is real. The longer he resisted action, the heavier the first step feels. Have you ever stood at the edge of something important and felt your heart race? That's where he is. The calm waiting energy has been replaced by urgency. And urgency disrupts comfort. The third sign is emotional resurfacing. Memories become sharper. Moments replay in detail. Conversations echo. He may remember things you said months ago and understand them differently now. Growth changes interpretation. What once felt like pressure now feels like love. What once felt overwhelming now feels necessary. He begins to see the connection not as something that complicated his life, but as something that revealed him to himself. That reframe is transformative. Because when perception changes, desire strengthens. The fourth sign is synchronicity amplification. When he is done waiting, signs seem to follow him. Your name appears randomly. A song tied to your memory plays unexpectedly. He dreams about you not in fantasy but in conversation. And these moments feel less coincidental and more intentional. It's as if life is nudging him, reminding him, asking him, how long will you ignore what is clearly meant to be faced? Synchronicities do not create awakening. They confirm it. And confirmation builds courage. The fifth sign is behavioral softening. If communication resumes, you may notice something subtle. He listens more. He responds more thoughtfully. He doesn't deflect serious topics with humor. He doesn't disappear mid-conversation. His tone carries weight, not intensity, depth. That depth signals presence. And presence signals readiness. Because a man who is still avoiding will remain surface level. A man who is done waiting engages fully. The sixth sign is protective awareness. He begins thinking long-term. Even if he hasn't expressed it yet, he may consider how his actions impact you, how his silence affects you, how his inconsistency may have hurt you. That awareness changes behavior. He becomes more careful, not out of fear but out of respect. Because once he acknowledges the value of the connection, he does not want to mishandle it again. This is maturity emerging. Not perfection, but intention. The seventh sign is decreased ego defensiveness. In the past, difficult conversations may have triggered withdrawal. Now he tolerates discomfort longer. He may admit fault more easily. He may acknowledge missteps. Not dramatically, not theatrically, but sincerely. Ego loses volume when clarity increases, and humility becomes strength. He realizes that winning arguments means nothing if he loses the connection, so he shifts from defense to collaboration. That is a powerful indicator. The eighth sign is visible contemplation. He may seem thoughtful, more introspective, less reactive, as if he's processing something significant internally, because he is calculating risk versus regret. He is envisioning future scenarios. He is mentally rehearsing conversations. He is weighing timing, not to delay, but to act wisely. This contemplation phase is preparation. When a masculine is done waiting, he doesn't leap impulsively. He moves intentionally, and intention takes reflection. The ninth sign is proximity seeking. Even before overt communication, he may find subtle ways to re-enter your orbit. Viewing stories, reacting occasionally, checking in casually, finding neutral reasons to connect. Not as a breadcrumb, but as calibration. He is testing the emotional field. Is it safe now? Is she receptive? Is there still alignment? He doesn't want to disrupt your peace, but he also doesn't want to lose the opportunity. So he approaches carefully. Because when something matters deeply, care replaces ego. The 10th and most powerful sign is decision energy. There comes a moment when hesitation shifts into resolve. You can feel it. His communication becomes direct. His tone becomes grounded. He stops speaking hypothetically. He speaks concretely. Instead of maybe someday, it becomes I want to see you. Instead of we'll see what happens, it becomes I don't want to lose this. That shift from ambiguity to clarity is unmistakable. And it only happens when he is done waiting internally. But here's something important. Not every sign appears dramatically. Sometimes the signs are quiet, subtle, energetic. You may feel him thinking about you intensely. You may feel a pull at unexpected moments. You may sense his attention return even before contact happens. Energy precedes action. Always. And when he is done waiting, his energy moves toward you before his body does. Let's ask a deeper question. Why does this shift feel so intense? Because waiting suppresses momentum. And when suppression ends, momentum releases all at once. It's like holding your breath underwater. Eventually, you must surface. And when you do, the inhale is powerful. That inhale is what you're witnessing. He can no longer hold back without suffocating his own truth. So the signs appear. Not as desperation, but as awakening in motion. It's also important to understand something. When he is done waiting, he is not chasing. He is choosing. Chasing is reactive. Choosing is conscious. There is dignity in choosing. There is strength in choosing. And there is peace in choosing. Because choosing ends internal chaos. It aligns mind and heart. And alignment radiates outward. You may wonder, what if he doesn't act immediately? Remember, internal shifts take time to manifest externally. But once a masculine crosses the line from indecision to decision, the trajectory changes. He may pause briefly. He may strategize. He may gather courage. But he does not return to passive waiting. That chapter has closed. So if you are sensing these signs, subtle clarity, emotional resurfacing, softer communication, intentional presence, trust what you feel. When a masculine is done waiting, he does not regress easily. He advances, even if slowly, even if carefully, even if quietly, because something fundamental has changed inside him. He is no longer hiding behind time. He is no longer negotiating with ego. He is no longer comfortable in limbo. He is moving toward union, not because he feels pressured, but because he feels ready. And readiness is magnetic. There were other moments before this, other waves of longing, other nights when he thought about reaching out, other flashes of emotion that almost pushed him forward. But this time is different. This time it doesn't feel reactive. It doesn't feel nostalgic. It doesn't feel impulsive. Feels necessary. The urgency he feels now is not panic. It is alignment pressing for expression. And when alignment reaches critical mass, delay becomes painful. In the past, he longed for her when he felt lonely. Now he longs for her even when he is surrounded. In the past, he thought about union when things went wrong in his life. Now he thinks about union even when things go right. That distinction matters. Because this is no longer about filling a void. It's about sharing fullness. And sharing fullness requires readiness. So why does now feel so intense? Because time has revealed contrast. He has experienced life without her presence integrated. He has tested distractions. He has tried rationalization. He has attempted emotional neutrality. And none of it erased the truth. Instead, distance clarified value. The more he evolved separately, the clearer it became that the connection was not a phase. It was foundational. And foundations are not meant to be abandoned. They are meant to be built upon. Another reason urgency is building is that he feels her evolution. Energetically, emotionally, perhaps even visibly. She is no longer in the same position she once was. She is not waiting anxiously. She is not orbiting his silence. She is grounded in herself. Independent, radiant, and that radiance does something powerful. It activates movement, because masculine energy naturally responds to strength, not in competition, but in resonance. When he sees her rise, he feels compelled to rise too. And rising requires action, not contemplation. There's also a maturity component. Earlier in the journey, he may have desired union for emotional reassurance, to feel loved, to feel validated, to feel chosen. Now he desires union because he wants to give. He wants to build. He wants to contribute. That shift from consumption to contribution changes everything. Union no longer feels like an emotional need. Feels like a shared mission. And missions demand momentum. Let's ask something important. What changed internally to create urgency? Clarity. Clarity removes optionality. When he was confused, delay was easy. When he doubted the depth, hesitation was logical. When he believed there would always be another chance, time felt abundant. But clarity eliminates those illusions. He knows now what this connection is. He knows what it isn't. And once you know something is rare, you don't treat it casually. You protect it. You pursue it. You secure it. There's also the realization of limited windows. Not in a dramatic it's now or never sense, but in a realistic understanding that emotional alignment does not stay static forever. People evolve. Circumstances shift. He understands that the version of her who still holds space for him may not exist indefinitely. Not because she is bitter, but because she is growing. And growth eventually moves forward. That awareness sharpens urgency, because he doesn't want to reach out too late. He doesn't want to arrive after the door has gently closed. Another layer of urgency comes from internal peace. Ironically, urgency feels calmer this time. In the past, when he considered reaching out, his nervous system was chaotic. Now it feels grounded, intentional, decisive. The urgency isn't frantic. It's focused, like a compass finally pointing north. He doesn't feel pulled in multiple directions anymore. He feels directed. And direction naturally creates movement. There's also the awareness of repetition. He has replayed this cycle enough times. Approach, intensity, retreat, silence, longing. He sees the pattern clearly now. And patterns lose their power once recognized. He understands that if he does nothing, the cycle continues. But if he chooses differently, the timeline shifts. That realization gives him agency. And agency fuels urgency. Because he knows he is no longer a passive participant in fate. He is a co-creator. Urgency also comes from emotional honesty. He can no longer convincingly tell himself he doesn't care. He cannot rationalize the depth away. He cannot downplay the impact she had on him. Honesty creates pressure. Because once you admit truth internally, you feel compelled to live in alignment with it. And living in alignment requires action. Silence now feels dishonest. Distance feels artificial. Waiting feels misaligned. And misalignment is uncomfortable. There's something else happening too. He imagines union not as fantasy but as reality. Not dramatic reunions. Not cinematic gestures. But simple things. Conversations. Shared routines. Mutual support. Partnership. He visualizes stability. Consistency. Growth together. And instead of feeling overwhelmed, he feels calm. That calm is powerful. Because it signals readiness. When the idea of real union feels peaceful instead of terrifying, something has matured. And maturity demands expression. Let's explore another dimension. Masculine energy thrives on movement, on progress, on forward momentum. Waiting is stagnation, and stagnation suffocates drive. Now that he sees union as a line, delay feels like self-sabotage. He feels as though he is holding himself back. And self-sabotage becomes intolerable once recognized. So urgency becomes self-correction, a return to alignment. There's also a subtle fear beneath the urgency. Not fear of rejection, but fear of regret. He imagines looking back years from now and wondering, what if I had just tried? What if I had been honest? What if I had chosen courage? Regret carries more weight than rejection. Rejection is a moment. Regret is a lifetime. And he senses that this connection is significant enough that ignoring it would haunt him. So urgency is born from protecting his future self. Another important distinction. This urgency is not about possession. It's about partnership. He does not want to claim her. He wants to align with her. There is respect in that. Growth in that. Depth in that. Earlier versions of him may have felt triggered by intensity. Now he feels invited by it. He understands that union is not about losing independence. It's about expanding it together. And that understanding reduces fear, which amplifies courage. He may not express all of this verbally. Masculine processing is often internal. But internally, the decision feels solidifying. He is rehearsing honesty, preparing vulnerability, calculating timing, but not to delay, to execute properly. Because when something matters deeply, he wants to approach it intentionally, not recklessly. You might feel the urgency too, through energetic pull, through sudden communication, through intensified connection, through dreams, through synchronicity. When both energies align in readiness, momentum accelerates. And this moment feels like acceleration, not forced, not chaotic, aligned. So why does union feel necessary now? Because separation has completed its lesson. Because clarity has replaced confusion. Because maturity has replaced fear. Because contribution has replaced consumption. Because regret feels heavier than rejection. Because time is no longer an ally of delay. And because love, when fully recognized, demands courage. He is no longer asking if union is possible. He is asking how to make it real. And that shift from possibility to implementation is everything. Because implementation changes timelines. Let me tell you a story. Not a fairy tale. Not a fantasy. But a pattern. Because sometimes the fastest way to understand what's happening now is to look at what happens when a masculine waits too long. There was a man who believed he had time. He met her unexpectedly. The connection was instant. Electric. Unexplainable. He had never felt that level of recognition before. It wasn't just attraction. It was like his nervous system knew her. Like his soul relaxed in her presence while his ego panicked. And that's where it began. He felt deeply, but he wasn't ready to admit it. So he did what many masculines do in the early stages. He rationalized. She feels intense because it's new. I just need space to think. I'll come back when I'm more stable. He didn't realize that love doesn't wait for stability. Love invites growth, not perfection. The illusion of later. He told himself there would be a better moment. After he fixed his finances. After he healed his past. After he figured himself out. Later. But what he didn't understand was this. Later is often just fear dressed up as logic. He thought waiting made him responsible. But waiting was actually avoidance. Have you ever convinced yourself that distance equals maturity? He did. He thought pulling back was noble. That disappearing was protecting her from his confusion. That silence was temporary. But silence stretches. And what begins as space can turn into absence. She didn't chase. First she reached out. She tried to understand. She asked questions. She expressed her feelings vulnerably. And he felt overwhelmed. Her emotional depth exposed his emotional blocks. Her honesty forced him to confront his own inconsistency. So he withdrew further. He expected her to chase harder. To prove she wouldn't leave. To wait endlessly. But something shifted in her. She stopped begging for clarity. She stopped explaining her worth. She stopped trying to convince him to choose her. She chose herself. And that's when he first felt fear. The quiet after the storm. At first, her silence felt like relief. No more emotional conversations. No more pressure to define things. No more mirrors showing him his own avoidance. But relief doesn't last long when it's built on suppression. Days passed. Then weeks. Then months. And something unexpected happened. The noise of distraction faded. And in the quiet he could finally hear his heart. He missed her. Not just her presence, her energy. Her laugh. The way she challenged him. The way she believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. He began replaying moments. The way she looked at him. The things she said that he brushed off. The vulnerability he ignored. And regret started to bloom. Regret is a heavy teacher. Regret doesn't shout at first. It whispers. You could have handled that better. You shouldn't have said that. Why didn't you just tell her the truth? He tried to push it down. He dated casually. He focused on work. He told himself it wasn't that serious. But no one felt like her. Because twin connections don't get replaced, they get remembered. And memory can be merciless. He began seeing her everywhere. Songs reminded him of her. Places they went together felt charged. Even random conversations triggered flashbacks. And then he saw something that shook him. She was moving forward. Not necessarily with another man, but with herself. She looked different. Lighter. Grounded. She wasn't posting to provoke him. She wasn't trying to make him jealous. She simply seemed free. And for the first time he realized something terrifying. She didn't need him to survive. She had loved him deeply. But she had not built her life around him. And suddenly the safety net he thought existed disappeared. He had assumed she would always be there. Emotionally available, energetically connected, waiting. But she wasn't waiting anymore. She was living. And that's when regret turned into urgency. The moment of clarity. There comes a point when a masculine can no longer blame timing. He either steps forward or he loses the opportunity. He sat alone one night and finally allowed himself to admit it. I was afraid. Not of her. But of what loving her required. Vulnerability. Consistency. Accountability. Depth. He realized he hadn't lost her because of circumstances. He lost her because he delayed courage. And that realization hit harder than rejection ever could. Pride versus purpose. Even then pride fought back. What if she doesn't respond? What if she's done? What if I look weak? But another voice grew louder. What if you stay silent and regret it forever? What if this was your chance at real love? What if waiting cost you destiny? And here's the truth many masculines face too late. The pain of vulnerability is temporary. The pain of regret can last a lifetime. The reach out. He drafted the message a dozen times. Deleted it. Rewrote it. He didn't know if she would respond. But this time he wasn't reaching out to soothe loneliness. He was reaching out from clarity. He didn't want potential anymore. He wanted reality. He didn't want control. He wanted partnership. He didn't want to test the connection. He wanted to honor it. And whether she answered or not, he knew something had changed. He was no longer hiding. Why this story matters? Because some masculines never reach that point. They convince themselves they moved on. They bury the connection under distractions. They numb the regret. And years later they still wonder, what if? But the masculine energy you're connected to right now? He feels that pressure building. He feels the narrowing window. He feels that if he waits much longer, he may not just lose her. He may lose the version of himself he was meant to become with her. And that realization changes everything. The lesson: waiting feels safe. Action feels risky. But love does not reward hesitation forever. There is a moment in every twin journey when delay becomes decision, when silence becomes loss, when fear becomes the only thing standing between two souls, and when a masculine truly understands that. He stops waiting, not because he's desperate, but because he's done letting fear dictate his life. So ask yourself, is the masculine in your connection approaching that turning point? Is he feeling the weight of time? Is he beginning to understand that union isn't guaranteed, it's chosen? Because when he realizes he waited too long once, he will not make that mistake again. And when he chooses courage over comfort, union stops being a possibility. It becomes a necessity. Something has shifted. You may not have proof yet. No message, no confession, no dramatic return. And yet you feel it. The energy is different. The silence feels charged instead of empty. Your dreams are more vivid. Your body reacts at random moments. A tight chest, sudden warmth, an unexpected wave of emotion. Why? Because when the masculine is done waiting, the feminine feels it first. The energetic ripple. Twin connections are not logical contracts. They are energetic ecosystems. When one shifts, the other responds. So if he has reached that internal breaking point, that moment where fear is no longer stronger than love, you will sense the tremor before the earthquake. But here is the paradox. Just as he feels urgency, you may feel calm. Just as he feels panic about losing you, you may feel detached. Just as he wants union now, you may finally feel okay without it. And that shift in you is not coincidence. It is growth. The feminine who stopped waiting. There was a time when you checked your phone constantly, when every notification made your heart jump, when tarot readings and synchronicities felt like oxygen. You analyzed his behavior. You searched for hidden meanings. You carried hope like a fragile glass. But something changed. Not because you stopped loving him, but because you stopped abandoning yourself. You got tired of living in potential. You realized love should not feel like guessing. You began pouring energy back into your body, your purpose, your friendships, your healing. And slowly the obsession softened into awareness. The longing softened into self-trust. The waiting softened into surrender. And that surrender is what activates him. Why your detachment triggers his awakening. Masculine energy often awakens through contrast. When you were chasing, he could run. When you were explaining, he could deflect. When you were emotionally available no matter what, he could delay. But when you grounded yourself, when you stopped negotiating your worth, when you emotionally stepped back, he lost the illusion of control. And here's the truth that may surprise you. Your detachment is not punishment. It is alignment. You didn't withdraw to manipulate him. You withdrew to survive. And in doing so, you recalibrated the entire dynamic. The feminine's new dilemma. Now here is the deeper layer. When he returns, or when you feel him preparing to, something inside you may hesitate. Not because you don't love him, but because you've changed. You are no longer the version of you who tolerated breadcrumbs. You are no longer the version who romanticized confusion. You are no longer the version who accepted inconsistency as passion. So when his energy approaches again, you may ask yourself, is he truly ready? Is this real change or temporary fear? Am I strong enough to walk away again if nothing has shifted? These questions are not cynicism. They are wisdom. The fear of reopening. Let's be honest. Loving him hurt. Not because the love was false, but because it was unbalanced. You held space while he hesitated. You communicated while he avoided. You stayed emotionally present while he fluctuated. And that creates scars. So when the masculine decides he needs union now, the feminine must ask, do I still want it? Not from ego, but from sovereignty. Because union cannot happen if you abandon your standards to receive him. And here is the crucial truth. If he has truly shifted, he will meet your new boundaries, not resist them. Feeling him before he speaks. Many feminines experience something strange before physical reconnection. Sudden emotional waves that don't feel like their own. Random nostalgia. Heightened intuition. Moments of deep peace followed by brief anxiety. This happens because when the masculine chooses internally, The cord between you activates differently. He begins thinking about you consistently. He replays memories with intention instead of avoidance. He imagines conversations instead of escape. And that focused energy reaches you. But here is your responsibility. Do not confuse energetic movement with physical commitment. Energy can open the door, but action proves readiness. The feminine's power now. In the early stages of the journey, the feminine often feels powerless, reactive, waiting for his clarity, waiting for his healing, waiting for his decision. But now, the power dynamic has shifted, not because you dominate, but because you stabilized. You are no longer trying to convince someone to choose you. You are observing whether they can. That is a completely different frequency. And masculine energy responds strongly to stability, because what he feared before was being consumed. Now he sees you are grounded, independent, whole, and that makes union safer. The temptation to test him. When he begins moving toward you again, you may feel the urge to test him, to be distant on purpose, to withhold emotion, to see how much he will chase. This reaction is understandable, but be careful. Testing from fear creates new distortions. Instead, respond from clarity. If he reaches out, observe consistency. If he apologizes, observe accountability. If he speaks about the future, observe follow-through. You don't need to interrogate him. His behavior will reveal everything. Are you ready for union? Here is the question many feminines avoid. If he showed up fully today, could you receive it? Not the fantasy version. Not the dramatic apology scene. But real grounded partnership. Shared responsibility. Daily communication. Mutual vulnerability. Because sometimes the feminine becomes so accustomed to longing that actual union feels destabilizing. Longing is intense but safe. It lives in imagination. Union is real, it requires integration. So ask yourself honestly, have you healed enough to build instead of chase? Have you released resentment? Have you forgiven, not to excuse him but to free yourself? Because when he says, "I'm ready now," your nervous system must also feel safe. The energetic window. There are moments in these connections when both energies align simultaneously. He feels urgency. You feel grounded. He feels clarity. You feel openness. He feels courage. You feel trust. That is the window. But if you are still clinging to the old pain, you may miss it. And if he is still half in, half out, he may close it. Union is not about one person waking up. It is about synchronized readiness. The feminine's final lesson. Your role now is not to chase, not to wait, not to overanalyze. Your role is to remain centered, to continue living fully, to allow him to step forward without you collapsing into expectation. If he chooses you from maturity, you will feel it. It will feel calm, not chaotic. It will feel steady, not dramatic. It will feel intentional, not impulsive. And if he does not, you will still be whole. That is the true transformation. The shift in the collective. More masculines are reaching this breaking point. More are realizing that waiting did not protect them. It isolated them. More are understanding that union requires risk. And more feminines are no longer available for half-love. This is not coincidence. This is evolution. The old dynamic of runner and chaser is collapsing. What replaces it is conscious choice. But conscious choice only works if both stand in their power. So as you feel this energetic movement, do not panic. Do not regress. Do not shrink to make space for his awakening. Stand still. Stand tall. Stand sovereign. Because when the masculine says he needs union now, the feminine must respond not with desperation, but with discernment. And that discernment is what transforms reunion into sacred partnership. There are moments in a twin flame journey that feel stretched out. Years can pass in silence. Cycles can repeat. Lessons can unfold slowly, almost painfully. And then, there are moments that move fast. Moments where everything that once felt blocked suddenly feels possible. Moments where clarity replaces confusion. Moments where both souls stand at the edge of the same decision. This is what we call the energetic window. And when it opens, it does not stay open forever. What is an energetic window? An energetic window is not about astrology. Not about luck. Not about random timing. It is about alignment. It happens when the masculine has confronted his fear of vulnerability. The feminine has released her attachment to outcome. Both have grown independently. Both are no longer trying to control the connection. It is the intersection of readiness. For a long time, one may have been ahead of the other. When she was ready, he was running. When he was reflecting, she was still wounded. When she detached, he was distracted. But alignment requires synchronization. And synchronization is rare. Why this window feels different? In earlier phases, there may have been reunions, late-night messages, intense conversations, moments of passion and hope. But those were emotional spikes. This window feels quieter, more grounded, less dramatic, because it is not driven by loneliness or ego validation. It is driven by clarity. The masculine does not want union now because he is afraid of losing you temporarily. He wants union because he understands he cannot build the life he desires without emotional depth. The feminine does not want union now because she fears being alone. She wants union only if it aligns with her standards. This mutual maturity is what creates the window. The narrowing of time. Here is something few people talk about. The longer a twin connection goes unresolved, the heavier it becomes. Unspoken truths accumulate. Missed opportunities echo. Parallel lives grow more complex. There comes a point where waiting is no longer neutral. It becomes a decision. If he hesitates now, knowing what he feels, the regret deepens. If she closes off completely, despite sensing his shift, the door hardens. The energetic window narrows when fear resurfaces. And fear can return quickly if not faced directly. Why hesitation now is more costly. Earlier in the journey, hesitation was part of growth. He needed to learn the value of emotional risk. She needed to learn the value of self-worth. But once both lessons are understood, repeating avoidance becomes sabotage. The universe does not keep presenting the same opportunity in identical form. It evolves. And sometimes, if the opportunity is not taken, it transforms into something else. Have you ever felt like you were given a moment to speak, and you stayed silent, and later wished you had been brave? Multiply that feeling by a lifetime. That is why this phase feels urgent. Not rushed, but important. The masculine's crossroads. He stands between two paths. Path 1. Stay comfortable. Avoid vulnerability. Maintain control. Live a stable but emotionally muted life. Path 2. Risk rejection. Speak truth. Commit fully. Experience depth that could change him permanently. In the past, comfort won. Now, comfort feels empty. He may still feel fear. His hands may shake before sending that message. His ego may resist admitting how deeply he cares. But the internal pressure is stronger than before, because he knows what silence costs. The feminine's crossroads. You stand at a crossroads too. Path 1. Protect your heart completely. Refuse to engage. Avoid reopening wounds. Path 2. Remain open but discerning. Allow conversation. Require accountability. The difference now is power. You are not powerless if you choose openness. You are choosing from strength. But if you choose protection out of fear, you may block the very growth you prayed for. This is delicate, because discernment is wisdom. But fear disguised as discernment is defense. Only you know the difference in your body. Does the thought of speaking to him feel grounded? Or does it feel like panic? Your nervous system will tell you. Signs the window is open. You may notice subtle indicators. Conversations feel easier than before. There is less defensiveness. He takes initiative instead of reacting. You feel calm rather than obsessive. Synchronicities increase but feel gentle, not chaotic. Most importantly, there is no need to force anything. The window opens when both are internally aligned. Effort still exists, but it feels mutual. The danger of overthinking. When this alignment happens, the mind may try to interfere. What if it falls apart again? What if he changes his mind? What if I misread the signs? Overthinking closes windows. Presence keeps them open. You cannot build union based on imagined future disasters. You can only build it based on current consistency. If he shows up today with honesty, meet that honesty. If he maintains effort, respond to that effort. Let the present prove itself. Divine timing versus human choice. People often say, if it's meant to be, it will happen. But divine timing does not remove free will. Timing creates opportunity. Choice activates it. The universe can align hearts, soften egos, and orchestrate circumstances. But someone still has to speak. Someone still has to act. Someone still has to say, I choose you. If both wait for the other to initiate, the window passes. Not because fate failed, but because courage did. What happens if the window closes? Sometimes growth continues separately. The connection may remain spiritual but not physical. The lesson may complete without union. And that is not punishment. It is evolution. But here is the difference now. If the masculine truly feels he needs union now, he senses the risk. He feels that this is not just another cycle. He feels that losing this opportunity would not simply hurt. It would reshape his life path. And that awareness creates urgency. Why calm is the indicator? Real alignment feels calm. Not euphoric. Not frantic. Not dramatic. Calm. Because when both have matured, there is nothing left to chase. There is only something to build. If the energy feels explosive and chaotic, the window may not be fully open. If it feels steady and intentional, it likely is. The sacred responsibility of now. This phase requires responsibility from both. The masculine must move beyond intention into action. Words must become plans. Feelings must become consistency. The feminine must move beyond hope into embodiment. Desire must align with standards. Love must align with self-respect. When both meet there, union becomes less about fantasy and more about structure. Not a fairy tale. A foundation. The question you must ask. If this is the window, if this is the moment where fear is weaker than love, will you both step forward? Or will you let old patterns decide again? Because the universe does not measure time in days. It measures growth and courage. And courage is required now more than ever. The energetic window for union is not about pressure. It is about presence. It is about recognizing when both souls have finally done the internal work. It is about understanding that destiny still requires decision. And if he truly is done waiting, if he truly understands what he risks losing, then he will not gamble this window away. And if you truly value your growth, you will not shrink to make it easier for him. You will meet him at the center, where readiness replaces longing, where action replaces assumption, where union is no longer a dream, but a choice. There comes a moment in every twin flame journey when the story stops being about destiny and starts being about decision. For so long, this connection may have felt like something happening to you. The synchronicities, the push and pull, the silence, the magnetic pull that logic could never fully explain, felt cosmic, fated, beyond control. But now it is no longer just spiritual. It is personal. Because when the masculine is done waiting, when he truly understands what he stands to lose, he reaches a final threshold. He either chooses love over fear, or he chooses fear over love. There is no neutral ground anymore. The moment fear loses its power. Fear once protected him. Fear told him, don't open up too much. Don't depend on someone. Don't risk rejection. Don't expose your heart. Fear kept him in control. But control came at a cost. Cost him intimacy. Cost him peace. Cost him authenticity. And most of all, it cost him you. At first, he believed that avoiding emotional risk made him strong. Now he realizes that true strength is emotional responsibility. He sees clearly that running did not preserve his freedom, it prolonged his loneliness. And something shifts when a man recognizes that his greatest limitation has been his own fear. Fear stops feeling safe, starts feeling small. Clarity after chaos. Think about everything that has happened between you. The misunderstandings, the mistiming, the almost conversations, the almost commitments. It may have felt chaotic, but chaos has a purpose. It exposes what is unstable. And now that both of you have faced your shadows, abandonment, pride, insecurity, avoidance, what remains is clarity. Clarity is not loud. It is steady. It does not say, I can't live without you. It says, I don't want to build my life without you. That is maturity. That is conscious union. He understands what union really is. Union is not obsession. It is not dramatic declarations. It is not intensity without structure. Union is partnership. It is choosing each other on ordinary days. It is having hard conversations instead of disappearing. It is accountability when mistakes happen. It is building something that lasts. When the masculine says he needs union now, he is no longer chasing a fantasy. He is choosing responsibility. And responsibility is sacred, the feminine's final empowerment. But here is the truth. This is not just about him choosing love. It is also about you maintaining yours. You have grown. You have healed parts of yourself you didn't know needed healing. You have faced your own fear, fear of abandonment, fear of not being chosen, fear of loving too deeply. And you survived. You are not the same person who once waited in uncertainty. You are stronger, more grounded, more discerning. So when he steps forward, you are not receiving him from desperation. You are receiving him, if you choose to, from power. And that changes everything. Love without fear feels different. Many people confuse intensity with destiny, but true union feels calm. When fear dissolves, the connection softens. There is less anxiety, less guessing, less emotional turbulence. Instead, there is transparency, honesty, intentional movement. If he truly chooses love over fear, you will feel the difference. He will not speak in riddles. He will not disappear when things get vulnerable. He will not test your loyalty. He will show up consistently. And consistency is the language of healed masculine energy, the end of the runner-chaser dynamic. For so long, this connection may have lived in polarity. One runs, one chases, one withdraws, one waits. But conscious union cannot exist in imbalance. The runner-chaser dynamic collapses when both step into self-respect. When he stops running. When you stop chasing. When both stop proving. And both start choosing. This is not a fairy tale ending. It is an evolution. It is two individuals who did the inner work finally meeting in the middle. The courage to speak. Some point words must be said. I was afraid. I handled things poorly. I see you now. These words require humility. But humility is the bridge between separation and union. Pride kept you apart. Honesty brings you together. And if he truly understands what this connection means, he will not hide behind ego anymore. He will risk vulnerability, because he finally understands that silence is a greater risk. You were never meant to shrink. Let this be clear. Union does not require you to become smaller. It does not require you to soften your standards. It does not require you to ignore your intuition. True masculine energy does not fear your strength. It respects it. If anything, your growth inspired his. Your boundaries awakened his accountability. Your detachment activated his clarity. You did not lose power by loving deeply. You gained it by loving yourself equally. What this means for your audience. To everyone watching this journey unfold in their own life. If you feel that shift, that grounded urgency, pay attention. If you sense that the masculine energy in your life is no longer resisting but reflecting, observe his actions. If he chooses courage, meet him with presence. If he retreats again, remain in your sovereignty. This phase is not about convincing anyone. It is about alignment. And alignment cannot be forced. If he stands in front of you now, fully aware, fully accountable, fully ready, can you let go of the old story? Can you release the narrative of pain long enough to build something new? Because union requires forgiveness. Not forgetting, but releasing the emotional charge that keeps you in the past. The old version of you and the old version of him could not make it work. But those versions do not exist anymore. Growth changed you both. The sacred choice. In the end, this is what it comes down to. Love is always available, but it must be chosen. Chosen over pride. Chosen over fear. Chosen over ego. Chosen over comfort. The masculine is done waiting because he realizes time does not guarantee opportunity. He realizes connection is rare. He realizes that real love requires bravery. And bravery is no longer optional. Your inspirational message. If this resonates with your journey, understand this. You were never crazy for feeling the depth of this connection. You were never foolish for believing in growth. You were never weak for loving fully. And you are not wrong for requiring more. Union is not about completing each other. It is about two whole people choosing to walk together. If he is truly ready now, you will see it. If he is not, you will feel it. Trust yourself. Trust your growth. Trust that love aligned with self-respect is never wasted. If this message spoke to your current situation, I want you to reflect. Are you feeling this energetic shift? Has the masculine energy in your life started moving differently? Comment below and share where you are in your journey. Are you sensing reunion or still navigating separation? Your story might help someone else feel less alone. If this video brought you clarity, like and subscribe for deeper insights into twin flame dynamics, masculine awakening, and conscious union. And remember, love does not reward fear forever. At some point, someone must choose. And when love is chosen consciously, not impulsively, not fearfully, but courageously, union is no longer a fantasy. It becomes reality.